Hello, are you looking for a way to create nice looking color palettes? This tool allows you to generate Hue Shifted color palettes. But what exactly are Hue Shifted color palettes and why would we want to use them? Well, a common mistake when shading images is to only adjust the brightness and saturation of the color when selecting brighter and darker colors. But this technique leaves us with a rather dull and monochromatic looking image. With the Hue Shifting technique, we also change the base color for our brighter and darker color variants. By doing so, this technique leaves us with a more vibrant image. You see how the Hue Shifted image is just much more interesting to look at. Okay, let's see how we can use the Hue Shifted Color Generator to create some really nice looking color palettes. The generator has some very useful options which we can use to create a huge variety of color palettes. We can tune these settings to explore and generate some very random colors until we find some we really like. And we can also fine-tune the generator to produce the exact same or similar results every time. Let's explore a little bit, shall we? In this scene we have 4 color generators, and because I'm not sure which color I want to use for my next color palette, I select them all and use the random template from the inspector. Now when I hit the Generate Palettes button, I will get very random colors all over the color wheel, with random saturation and random brightness. Let's generate a few more colors. You see how they all vary a lot in hue, saturation and brightness? Well, these colors might be a little bit too random. In my case, I would like to make something more cartoony, and therefore I want to get rid of all those dark colors. To achieve this, I will just tick off the checkbox that says Base Color Brightness Offset. Okay, let's generate a few more colors. Already much better. But there are still colors with a quite low saturation and I would like them to be somewhat similar to the base colors I'm currently using. So let's reduce the Base Color Saturation Offset. Now we should get base colors with the same brightness, similar saturation and a lot of variety in hue. Awesome, here's a color palette that I already like a lot, but I would just like the colors to be a little bit different. Let's select one of the colors of the color palette and enable the options in the inspector for this color palette. Here we have even more options for fine-tuning. We can change the total steps for our brighter and darker colors and add some additional hue, saturation and brightness shifts. Or we can also completely change the base color, which also affects the brighter and darker colors. So now that the color palette is almost perfect for my use case, I would like to generate a few similar color palettes just to explore some more. I can press the Generate Similar Colors button, which will create another Hue Shifted Color Generator already set up to generate very similar colors to this color palette. Let's generate some more. They all look nice, but I would rather stick to the one I've already chosen, so let's select it again and click on the button which says Add Color Palettes to Manager. Nice! The color palette has been added to the manager right underneath the palettes I've added in earlier sessions. For demonstration purposes, let's quickly add some more color palettes to the manager. We can also see our chosen color palettes if we go to Tools and then click on Hue Shifted Color Palettes. This opens a window containing all our color palettes and can be useful when selecting colors for our game objects. Let's go back to the color manager and select the color palette. If we open the options of the palette, we can use the Save this palette as texture button to export the palette as a PNG file. We can then import this file into other programs, such as Blender for example, and use it for texturing our 3D models. Of course, we can also export multiple color palettes into a single PNG file and do the same with them. Just mark all the required color palettes and then click on Save Marked Palettes as Single Texture on any color palette. Okay, now that we know how to add colors to the manager, let's see how we can tune our color generators to produce the results we want. Let's start by just focusing on the brightness of our brighter and darker colors. To do this, I will just tick off the random hue and saturation shifts and generate a few palettes. If we want to generate less shift in brightness, we can put the min-max slider towards the left. And you might have guessed it, we can slide it to the right if we want a larger shift in brightness. The saturation shift is very similar to the brightness shift. Let's have a look at it. If we put the saturation slider to the left, we get less change in saturation, like so. For a larger change in saturation, put the slider to the right. Now let's combine the saturation and brightness shift to see how they look combined. Finally, let's have a look at the random hue shift. The brighter colors will go towards yellow, the darker ones towards purple. This slider controls how much we want to shift the colors. For the hue shift slider, very small values work better, so we should keep the slider on the far left side. Let's test the current settings. The generator should produce colors with a large shift in brightness and saturation and a low to medium shift in hue. If we are not sure yet if the current base color is the one we actually want, we can use the base color randomization options in the inspector to randomize the base color. Here we can also randomize the brightness, saturation and hue. And that's it for this video. More features like generating analogous, complementary and triadic color combinations are likely to follow in future updates.